Hey everyone, welcome back to Mr. Holland's Classroom. This video is meant to have a little bit more fun than any of the typical learning videos that I do. I'm trying to engage students in new ways that are exciting and help them see that learning can be fun. You see that I have sentences up here, I have a book and M&Ms. You might be thinking, what does this all have to do with anything? All of this has to do with learning. We're going to be talking about words and letters, sentences, and best of all, eating M&Ms. So let's just jump right into it. The reason why I have these set up is because we want our students to recognize their letters, the sounds of the letters, and the words going all the way into these sentences. At this point in the year, we've talked about our letters and our letter sounds. So the students should be able to tell you if you say what letter says S, they should be able to tell you that it says S. I often like to challenge my students because in kindergarten, depending on the experience, I have students that get tricked up because when they hear a S, they might say, oh, that means it's a C because of what it says. So I try to trick them up. So if you have children at home that get confused, they think that when you say what letter makes a J sound and they go G, I want you to try to challenge with them those little details, because kindergartners can sometimes get tricked up in that if we're not saying the sounds often enough. So usually if you have like any kind of cards, you can make them with letters. Just go through and go, A says A. We have a system called Foundations, and it goes A, apple, A, but you can make up cards and just goes A says A and have them go through. B says B, C says K, going through. But at this point in the year, our students are learning how to put their skills together. They've learned sight words. They are familiar with how to find letters because of the beginning sound, and I'm going to show you and demonstrate in a little bit. But we're starting to get to the point where it's like, even if you don't know how to read these sentences, we're going to put our skills together to try to figure that out. So if we're looking at this, you'll see two sentences here. And I did that on purpose. I'm going to show you a couple things. You might write these sentences down for your kids on just a blank piece of paper. You can make up the sentences. But in kindergarten, we want them to at least be able to identify words in sentences that have at least 5 words. I have 5 right here and 4 right here. No big deal. And depending on how well your child is picking up these skills and putting them together, you might see that this is easy. You might see that this is a little challenging, but I'm going to show you where to start and then how to work your way up through it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how many words there are. And you can start by reading through. If you're reading stories to your kids, I would encourage you, if they don't know any of the words yet or don't know any of the skills yet, point to which words you're saying, because sometimes students have a hard time with the fact that each of these has its own saying to it. Instead of saying, this first sentence says, I was with my sister. Can you count the words? I was with my sister. 4 words. We have to systematically make sure we're counting along and we're pausing enough to get these words going. So I was with my sister. Okay, so that was you helping them. At some point, you might try to challenge your child and say, look at the sentence. Are there any words that you recognize? They should recognize this word, at least, because we've spent a lot of time discussing that this is a letter as much as it is a word, depending on how you use it. And when it's in a sentence like this, it means I was with my sister. So they should be at least be able to say that. I think that's our second sight word. But looking at the rest of the words, your child might recognize, this says was. I don't know this one. This one's my. I was my. Okay, I don't know what that one is either. So then you go from there. You see where they've started. If they only know this, then you know where they're starting from. And you can help them read through. And take a pause. You don't have to read through the whole sentence and then have them go through if you don't want to. But you might start with that and say, okay, the sentence says, I was with my sister. Okay, what word do you think says my? My? I don't know which word says my. Okay, well, let's think about it. What does my start with? What letter does my start with? Okay. M. Man. They might say something like that because they learn the chants in school. So you go, okay, so which of these words starts with M, man, Right here. This one says my. Very good. Okay. The sentence says, I was with my sister. So let's find out which word says with. Okay, with says, it's W. Okay. But we have two words here that start with W. How do we figure out which one says with? There's two ways we can go about this. So let's listen to the sentence. I was with my sister. Let's count. I was with my sister. Okay, did you find the with? I was with. This one says with. Okay, another way you could have your child figure out what this is they can tap down the sounds in the word with. Wa, if. They could do that. It is a sight word, and at some point they would learn to do it repetitively, but they're breaking down words in kindergarten, so if they can even get to the second part, they could figure it out because it. What vowel sound is in there? It, I, itch, it. So which one says W-I? This one here. Good. Okay, so we've done a lot of that. We're working with the letters, working with the sounds. Let's look at the structure. When we're writing, we talk about how our sentences always start with an uppercase letter, how there's always enough space in between the words so they're not all just combined as one word. They all have punctuation at the end and how the sentence has to make sense. So looking at this, okay, our uppercase is there. You might want to challenge your child to determine if this is a period, a question mark, or an exclamation point. Those are the big three. Those are the ones that we talk about. We don't really talk about commas or colons or anything like that. We just talk about the end punctuation. So challenge them. Is this a period, question mark, or exclamation mark? Go through that process. One thing you can do, this is easier for me because I can move these magnets around. If you want to try to do this at home and you have like cards that you've written words on, you can like write a sentence on like a paper and then cut the words out and then mix them up, which is something that I do as an activity for my students who are working independently. They can rearrange the sentence just with the words apart. So I can show you what that looks like. If I had cut these out, I have them like this and I go, okay, we need to fix this sentence. It's all mixed up. So what is the order? So where do I start? If the sentence says, I was with my sister, where do we start? We need to figure out which one of these starts the sentence, and we know that all sentences start with an uppercase letter. So I'm going to find out which one starts with an uppercase. I. Okay, so let's put the I right here. Okay, I was with my sister. Again, you might have a child that knows the sight word was already, because the reason why it's a sight word or sometimes called a trick word is because it doesn't say what as was. We say it by sight because we know it doesn't make sense traditionally to tap it out. We say was. So again, use the clues. There's two words that start with a W. Okay, what did the N sound? Was. Z. Well, none of them end with a Z. Okay, again, this is why it's a trick. So what else do you think it could be? Well, it's not I. No. So it's these two. This one kind of sounds like it might end with was. Okay, so let's put that there. I was with my sister. As they add a word, you read the sentence so to kind of jog their memory of what they're trying to find. So I was with. Okay, so with is the other one that starts with what, and we know that this one does. So I was with my. I was with my. My starts with N. Put it right there. And I was with my sister. Chances are they might not be able to just read this, especially with this ending, because in kindergarten we don't talk about those endings quite yet. But they do recognize that the N sounds like sister, and they can find that the N sound. They can find it for the beginning sound. So they'll find that, and then they know to put the period at the end. So that's one strategy. So you can do that again with different sentences and changing the punctuation and things like that. I would, just make 3 sentences on like a paper. Again, cut out the words. You can have them mix it up themselves just for show. But again, trying to get them with a variety. Also, you can ask questions like, okay, so this next sentence says, who saw the teacher? Which one is the longest word? This is kind of like a test question type logic here. Asking which word is the longest. We want them to be able to identify that this is a word because it is made up of different letters, and it is the longest one because it has the most letters in it. You can do the same thing down up here. You can say, which is the smallest word? And hopefully they're pointed to here. They might go, this is a small one. But we want to go, okay, well, a small word has fewer letters, so which one has the least? Those type of things. And then, again, changing the punctuation, having them ask. You can, again, rearrange them. But, again, how does that do with the M&Ms? Well, for this, you can do things like if you have those cards out, you can count out some M&Ms and have them just go through how many words they hear. And so, like, if I have a couple of M&Ms right here, repeat after me. I was with my sister. I was with my sister. So that they're starting to recognize that each word is its own word. Sometimes they get confused because they go with syllables. So they go, I was with my sister. 6. We don't want that. We also don't want students to be looking at these and thinking that the words are actually letters, because many times, believe it or not, when it, like a test says, how many words are in this sentence? Our students will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's just because they're used to counting letters and working with letters, especially in kindergarten. We work with lots of letters. So we want to get them away from that. We want them to realize that this group is one word. This group of letters, one word. And you can use the M&Ms to kind of help them count that out. If you're reading a book, which I'll show you in a minute, that's another thing you do is you can put these with them and have them count it out. It's like putting dots underneath the words to recognize these are words. This is one word. I was with my sister. Okay, so the last thing I want to kind of show you in this video, I'm trying not to overwhelm everybody, but I am going to show you a little bit about how you can do this in books. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so this is where the book comes into play. So you're reading a story. You might not have the M&Ms on hand, but M&Ms, if you're kind of working with them during the day, good incentive. If you're reading them a bedtime story, I would not suggest that you give your child candy right before bed, because then they're going to be all wired up. So this is a book from Mo Willems, that's called My Friend is Sad. So if we're going to read through this book, starting at the first page, they're not going to know some of these onomatopoeias or different words. So you're reading the book to them at this point. Oh, my friend is sad. You can ask your child, how many words are in this sentence? 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're working with them through the day, just tell them, put an M&M under each word, and we'll count the words. 1, 2, 3, 4. That way they're not counting out the letters and going, oh, there's 10. No, there's 1, space, 2, space, 3, space, 4, with the period at the end. So that's what we're doing. I will make him happy. What kind of punctuation is this? Well, it's not just a period, and it doesn't sound like he asked a question, so it's not a question mark. It's going to ask exclamation point, so when we read it, we're excited. I will make him happy. Which word says will? Say will. Will. What does will start with? W. Okay, so which word starts with a W? Put the M&M on the word. Great job. All right, one more. Which word says him? By the way, him is a sight word, so they should be able to just show you him because they've repeated it. But if they don't, you can also have them work through the sounds. So say him, him. Let's tap out him. Tapping is a strategy we use for CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant, to show what the sounds are in each point. So h, I, m. What's the first letter in him? H. Okay, there's two words that start with H, but what's the last sound in him? M. Which of these words ends with M? Very good. I'm just kind of showing you, and you don't have to do this with every page, because if you do it with every page, it's going to take a long time and your kids are going to get bored. So just go through, read the book, and then when you stop at certain pages, you might go, oh, there's no words there. What are these? Question marks. Why would he just say only question marks? There's no words. Maybe he's wondering what's going on. Good observation. You're making conversation with your child, talking about things. You talk about, why are these words so big? The other ones are smaller. Maybe it's because he's yelling. It looks like he's yelling. He's got an exclamation point, which means he's very excited. So again, you're just kind of having those conversations as you go through the story, noting different things. You are going to see patterns in the book, depending on what book it is. So making note of that. And so, yeah, I'll just end the video with that. Again, I wanted to kind of show you, ways that you can talk about sentences and reading. Kindergartners are not going to be as strong generally, but, you might have a child who is picking it up very quickly and is only missing a couple pieces. But we want to let them get excited about it. And reading is not always so exciting, but if you pick a good book, if you're making funny sentences, if you're including them in sentences, like the sentence you write out and cut out, maybe write your child's name and say, Benjamin went to the store, and just cutting that out and then having them go through, and they're like, hey, that's my name. Well, okay, let's find your name first. Okay, there it is, and let's find the other words. And then again, using the M&Ms as part of incentive and also as a tool to manipulate. Put the M&M on the word that you think says Gerald. Put the M&M on the word that you think says piggy. Piggy, P, and then have them do that. So you're having them kind of engaged in the learning and then reading. So again, I just wanted to show you that. Thank you guys for watching. I know this was a long video, but I had a lot to say, and hopefully it was helpful at some points. And hopefully your kids enjoy the M&Ms. Love you guys. See you later.